Hi, and welcome to the Room for Reinvention podcast. I'm your host, Kim Conant. Today's episode, I speak with Kathleen Lawson. She's a business strategist who helps solo professionals and small business owners implement the vision they have for their business. This is another great episode with lots of information and tidbits that's going to really inspire you. So here we go. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome to this episode today.
Hello, Kim. How are you today?
I'm good. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
We met in a networking group, Pepper Lane, and
Yes,
you are a business strategist. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, well, as you know, the podcast is Room for Reinvention, and people are coming on to share their stories of how they have reinvented or transformed an aspect of their life, whether it be personal or professional. So we are excited to hear your story.
Awesome. Um, it was funny because I think we sort of connected on that point through some email, and I was mentioning to you that I had a male client who specifically hired a woman to help him make some changes because his wife pointed out to him, you should hire a woman because women are so used to reinventing themselves. And men don't do that as often, and so that's why he specifically went looking for a woman and why he hired me. And this was 2 years ago. I'm still working with him, but that always sticks in my mind, and he brings it up a lot too. And but it's so true. I mean, I think as women, because of so often we're the primary caregiver, and so we do have to make so many changes, and that's really the source of my reinventions. I mean, I feel like I've had to do that a couple of times. I started out with career driven, working, and then had to do a total reinvention when I had children, and kind of left my corporate career to raise kids. And what did that look like? And then as they start getting older, okay, time to do that again. And so act three, and that's where I am now. So
Yeah. No, I remember that. That's pretty cool. And that's like a whole other conversation as well, because sometimes like women can have the disadvantage of having to or choosing to stay home, right, and leave their career and then have to re-enter the professional world. And it can be an advantage, right? Because you can transform yourself or change careers. But men sometimes don't have that option. So sometimes our choices are limited. So it's pretty interesting.
yeah, and that's what really happened to me. I mean, it was it was it was my choice. I mean, I wanted to be home to raise my kids, but there was also at the time four of them. I When I got married, my husband had two small children, and then a year later we had twins. So I went from like 0 to 4 in a year.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, and so I just didn't see how I was going to work full time and do that. I just didn't even see the path to that. And my company helped me out by not budging an inch on any flexibility. They're like, no,
Mm.
you will be here all the hours. There was no 4-day work week. There's no, you can leave early. There's no, you can work from home. And, it's a different world now. But so that pushed me out into, going home and figuring out, all right, what do I do? And that was the time, that was 20 years ago. And so it was, before we were all on the internet, and it was before social media. And, it's funny because I sort of considered this a consulting route. I had an MBA, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go work with small businesses. But the only model I had at that time was some male friends of mine who were able to go into Boston, into the city, and network like every day. And I'm like, how am I going to do that with two newborns? And, I just didn't even see how that was going to happen. Like I said, it was before social media. So I feel like now it's a totally different
Mm.
world. And so this reinvention for me really happened 5 years ago. So, and the whole, everything's so different now, and we have access to social media and the internet, and it's allowed us to market in different ways and connect with clients all over the place, much differently than when I did it the first time 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this time my same set of twins here, starting to look at colleges. It was 5 years ago, and they we were in the middle, like I remember this very, very clearly. We were in the middle of a college tour, and I literally stopped in my tracks and thought, oh my gosh, they're leaving. And obviously I knew they were leaving, but they're numbers 3 and 4. So the oldest one was out, the second one was in college at that point. And so now this is number 3 and 4. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be gone. And I'm only going to have one kid left. And, one kid, I can do that blindfolded and with one hand tied behind my back. But it like, it really, I realized that, all right, for now, for the first time in a lot of years, I can do what I want, not just what I needed to do. It wasn't,
Mm,
I didn't have to put all of them first. I mean, obviously my family's always going to come first, but it's a little bit different when you don't have young children who need you, every hour of the day and all
right,
of that.
exactly.
So that's when I stood there in the middle of that college campus, and I thought, I can do whatever I want. What do I want? What do I want to do? And I had, and I made a choice about, and I had done some consulting work, some freelance work along the road, and I was doing something else, but I thought about that, and I was like, that was the thing I really loved to do, and I liked working with small business owners, and so I decided, all right, I'm going to go start this business. And I, I did. And
Yeah.
and I just kind of jumped into it. I went out, I started networking. I really thought I was going to, come into it on operations side. And my very first client, I went to a networking meeting, met somebody who hired me like right off the bat, and, for more operational support. And I said, all right, what are we doing? And she said, I don't know. What do you think I should do? And I,
That's awesome.
okay. So like right away, I moved kind of more to the strategy side, and strategy and accountability, and more into like what I'm actually doing now. And so, my path just sort of started to unfold in front of me. And, and that's where I am now. And that was a little over 5 years ago. So
I think it's fascinating that in this time and in the life that we have right now, the time in this day and age, that we are able to take our talents and create a business. So for instance, like some before, like you were saying, how everything's changed, we're all online and you can take courses online. In 2020 in COVID, I took courses in photography online. But the corporate world is not is if a woman is going to go back to work after being home for 10 years 15 years with their children, they don't make space for that.
yeah.
So you have all of this talent and all of this education, and that's what's happening now, right? We're starting our own businesses for many other reasons as well, for the scheduling, for having control over our own lives and our own money. So what you did is really awesome. It's very innovative.
Well, and I think you make a really great point there. And when I look at my client roster, easily half, and at any given time, half of my clients are women in their second or third act. And so they have come out of the corporate career, they've come back to work, all of these things. So I am working with people who are doing exactly what I did. But you're absolutely right. Like and it's funny because when I look at the way I help clients, and like my skills and the wisdom and perspective I bring, it's bringing along everything I've ever done. From my very first job, I started in advertising. So I started my life in marketing, and I did some operations stuff. Like I said, I have an MBA. So I've got like this education, all this different experience, all these things. And now when I work with small business owners, I'm using all of that.
Mm.
And and I feel like really valuable to my clients. But I know that if I were to go try and find a, job, that it's going to be a lot different. And it's going to be, well, you haven't, where's your experience during this time? And so, and I have over the years poked in that direction. And that's what I found. And I found, what, I feel like that I'm much more valued in this entrepreneurial space than I would be in the corporate world, because of kind of traditions and values and
Yeah.
the way they look at things. So
So
absolutely.
when you were on the campus and had that like aha moment, were you thinking, what did you do? What were your steps? Did you say, okay, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm good at? And Like, what was that? What
Right.
process?
Well, I so so when my kids were born and I left the corporate world, I was doing a few little freelance things, and I ended up starting a direct sales business.
Mm.
And in the food area, I love food. And-
Yes, you do. I love your seeing your recipes and
oh,
cooking.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? I like to eat well, so I got to cook it too.
Yeah.
But I did that, and in addition to the sales and the marketing and all of that, the other thing that happened is I helped a lot of other people do the same thing. And it's funny because I ended up doing very much what I do now. I was helping people, mostly women, kind of set goals and break them down and figure out, okay, what do I need to do week to week to make this happen? And how do I do this around my family? And how do I manage my time? And I'm doing a lot of the same thing now, but it's just a very different container.
Mm.
But I was doing that all along. I did some other freelance stuff, but when I was standing on that college campus and I started thinking about it, I love the idea of consulting and the strategy and all of that. But I was a little nervous about just sort of declaring myself as like the expert in this and, that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'll kind of come in more on the operation side. And I felt like, maybe that was a way to kind of sneak in. And it was, I don't know, I felt for some reason it was going to be an easier sell. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe it wasn't, maybe I just wasn't kind of standing in my, I wasn't owning it as
Mm.
much, it was a little bit of like, okay, I'll just kind of sneak in here. But like I said, that very first client who hired me for that, I mean, we met at a networking group, we started talking, she told me what she needed. I was like, I can do that. And she hired me. And I was like, all right, let's go. And, I saw right away because she needed a different kind of help and I was able to provide it. I was like, okay, I can do this. I can show up this way. And so I pretty immediately changed the way I presented myself and what I was talking about. But my first step was literally just to go networking. I and that's advice I give to other people that are starting in the business, depending on what the business is. But for any service provider, consultants and coaches and copywriters and all the people that are providing all these kinds of services, getting out and talking to people is the fastest way to clients, like
Yeah.
no doubt. And so, yeah, I started networking and I started meeting people and I was getting hired. I mean, that's just talking to people and meeting them. That was how it all broke open. And then, and like I said, it just sort of evolved as I went along. I'm a big believer in, you take baby steps. Even if you can't see the end game, you take a step in that direction. And clarity comes with action. Like the more you do,
Mm.
you're going to get to this point and you're going to look back and say, oh yeah, that's it, there it is. But if you're sitting at home at your desk thinking about it all the time, it's hard to find the clarity, but it takes the action. So I just kind of kept doing, and a step in this direction, a step in that direction, working with my clients, helping them. And over time I was able to build the frameworks that help them build, working with so many people, I know what they need and how to help
Mm.
them. And from there, my group program was born out of that. And, it just kind of kept rolling and rolling and rolling.
I think it's incredibly brave, to take a risk, right? And say, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I love that. And I think that there's that entrepreneurial spirit. And, as business owners and we're networking, we meet people that have that spirit, but it does take courage but I love, so doing that is great. And I agree with you. I think that the more that you start taking your steps and moving forward, you'll start to see, especially if it comes to me like photography, you start to see who you like to work with, what genre you like best. And you don't have to have everything perfect in the beginning.
Right.
It'll come about. But one of the biggest mistakes, well, I'm not going to say mistake, I learned was I didn't network right away in the beginning. And I did spend too much time trying to craft my message or my website, and my everything had to look perfect. And all that time I was not networking. And everything's about networking. And I loved another thing, and it would be great if you could talk about your group that
Yeah.
you have and the services, because as a business owner and a solopreneur, you get so bogged down with so many things that you have to do. So, for instance, every day I might say, okay, Kim, you have to network and you need to go to your networking groups. That's my biggest problem is like going online, especially like Facebook or something like that. But the day will get away from me and I haven't done anything that's actually may create money for me, right?
Yep.
Like as a creative, I could spend 3 hours putting together a reel for Instagram. That's not going to make me any money, as opposed to I could have gone to a networking event with the chamber and talked to businesses. So
Right.
I think that that's the lead way into your work that you do for people, especially the group that you run that can keep people consistent
Yeah.
and accountable. And I think in the beginning, we get so bogged down with so much information that would be so helpful for
Right.
someone. So
Yeah, that challenge is so common, and like nearly everybody I talk to has that issue, and it's hard. And there's something in our, we'd think, oh, I've got to, well, a couple things. One, I've got to do the client stuff first. Everyone wants to take care of their clients first. And the other thing is, as human beings, we naturally gravitate to things that are easy and comfortable. So
mhm.
so kind of on both those fronts, it often keeps us from doing the things that we should be doing, which is focusing on our own business. And that is one of the strategies that I talk with people about every single day, is to take the first hour of your day and focus on your business. Because the thing is, you'll always get the client work done. You'll always get that stuff done, no matter how tired you are, no matter how late it is. If you have to finish something for a client, you absolutely will. But if it's, doing your own networking, if it's, doing the things, following up with the person that you met, all those things, you're tired, it's late, it's like, I'm not doing that today.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's that, you blow that off. So yeah, that's a strategy that comes up all the time. But overall, yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of people like you. I work with a lot of creative, big picture, visionary entrepreneurs. And at the core, what I'm doing is helping them reach their vision, helping them bring that to life. So they are standing here, they know they want to get over there, but how do we do that? And so I work with them on really clarifying what that looks like, um, the steps. What are the steps we need to take to get there? And like, let's one at a time. What are the couple things we need to do right now? Because that's another really common challenge for entrepreneurs is they want to do everything right now. I want to do
Mm,
this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And, full of ideas, and it's super inspiring, but you can't do everything at once.
mhm,
And that's the trap that they fall into. So really helping them prioritize, well, you know what, if we just do one thing right now for the next couple months, what's the most important thing you need to do to take things forward? Is it, you need to, I don't know, work out this service? Do you need to finish a website? Do you need to, what is it that you need to do right now? And then break that down into a plan. Cause that's the other thing, if you sit down and you think, well, I know I need to do this and I don't even know where to start. Well, then you're going to go do something else. So we break that down into an executable plan so that when you sit down and you have this action item that's really clear and oh, I know how to do that. Like I know how to do that one thing. So then you do it. So that's helping you get into action. And then it's all about execution. And that's really, I think, where I stand out a little bit from other people that do similar things is that I'm all about execution, about helping business owners get into action. And, the ideas are wonderful and you need those ideas. But at the end of the day, you need to sit down at your desk and get something done. You need to take this big idea up here and like, what do I actually have to do to make it happen? And so it's all about the execution. And so taking those plans and putting them into action and putting the systems and processes in place to support that.
mm,
And then what you do on a daily basis and how you manage your time and how you manage yourself. So I work with clients a lot one-to-one. They'll hire me it's very custom. They'll tell me, this is what I'm trying to do, and we'll put together a plan and work together for months. And very often they're trying to pull together a lot of pieces in their business. And then the group kind of came out of that. I was working with different people one-to-one, and one of my clients said to me, have you ever thought about doing a group? I want to do what we did, but in a group setting and, kind of a chunk of that. And so So I started this group 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, and it's now called Close the Gap. And so it's really about closing the gap between where you are now and where you're trying to go. And I work with a couple of business owners at a time, up to 6, and we set a couple of goals, 1 or 2, sometimes 3 goals. I work with them up front and one-to-one. We do a strategy session where we nail down those goals and we put a plan together. So they now have an executable plan. We talk about resources, what are you going to need to get this done? And then it's 12 weeks of execution support, and the group comes together and it's very nitty gritty. They come in and it's like, all right, this is what I was supposed to do this week. This happened. This was good. This was good. This is a big win. I fell apart here. What do you think about this? This is what I think I might do next. And we go through, and then they leave there with really specific action items that they're going to focus on for that week. We also come together on Fridays. We do our CEO hour, which is my name for weekly planning. And it's one of the things that I believe in very, very strongly, that taking the time and space every week to plan your week is the best way to take control of your time and to really keep yourself moving forward towards your goals. And so the group does all of that. And what I love about it is when I look at where people are when we start and where they are when we wrap up 3 months later, they make big progress in their business. Some of them are working on sort of projects and they get those done. Some of them are implementing structure and routines. Maybe they want to get a handle on how they manage themselves, or maybe they're getting a handle on their networking and follow up, or whatever it might be. But they make the progress in that area. And they accomplish so much and they move forward so far in their business. So I just love it. And I find it very fulfilling to watch what they get done during that time.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because I think in the beginning, well, in any stage, so but in the beginning, you're so overwhelmed with so much information. I did join a coaching group for photographers, and that was, like you were saying, it was so powerful because we were able to set up systems for our business that, even though I didn't have a ton of clients in the very beginning, I had all of that set up to help me.
Nice.
So I think, yeah. And so do you have people at different stages? Because I can see how coaching is critical in the beginning to help you learn systems and get your business set up, and also have like accountability, and then different steps that you break down, because it can feel so overwhelming. But then as you get into it, I'm sure that there's different growths for everything, right? So you're in there for a few years. Now you need different things. And then other people who have like goals to double their income or increase their income. Do you have different people at different stages?
Absolutely. All of that. I do work with some people early on. They typically don't come into my group as much. The group is more for people who are a little further along, but I work one-to-one with a lot of new people. And I've helped a lot of people sort of set up all their operations, get themselves going, all of that. The real sweet spot for me is people who get their business started. They have clients. They are experiencing a certain level of success, but they're very often doing it without the structure and the systems. And so they're sort of almost like the duck, on the water. They look, good up on top, and underneath they're like,
yeah.
And so the things that they say when they come to me are, they're winging it. They're winging everything. They've got these clients. It's good. They have a certain amount of success, but they can't get any further. And it's because they've kind of hit a wall because they're doing everything manually. They are the big bottleneck in their business. They can't move forward because they're just sort of in the way. And so a lot of them are like, I'm ready. I think I'm ready to hire somebody. I don't know what to have them do. I don't know who to hire, what to have them do. I'm working all the hours. I'm totally unorganized. I'm just sort of like holding it together, and they're stressed out. And it's the other line is, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Like they, kind of pictured much calmer, being able to take off more time, but they feel like they're really just, so that's a very common kind of place where people end up coming to me. And so we put a lot, we put that structure into place. We get the systems in place, the processes, help them sort of figure out who they need to hire. And once, you know, one of the, on that front, one of the things is like once you sort of set up all your processes or at least document them, once you talk through them, you figure out, this is what I need to do. This is what, in terms of marketing, here's my marketing strategy. So here's all the things I need to do. Here is how I bring on clients. Here's what needs to happen. Here's how I service my clients. So once you document all that out and you see all the things that need to get done, now you're in a position to hire because you can see, okay, you know what?
Mm.
The thing that's going to serve me best is to have a VA who's going to do all these things and all these things and all these things. Or I really need a social media manager because this is like the biggest chunk of things. But until you break it all down, you don't see that. You're just like, I have all this stuff to do and I'm so busy, but I don't know what to have somebody help me with. So when you break it all down like that, now you can see it all. And now you can figure out, all right, here's what I need. Here's the kind of person I need to hire. And here's what they need. This is what I need them to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So, do you offer a like a consultation where somebody could call and kind of like you can kind of assess what
Yeah.
they, yeah.
Yep. I do free consult calls and we can chat. I also just love to do coffee chats with people. I love to talk to business owners, get to know them. I'm always looking to expand my network too. And because of the way I work with my clients, I do so many referrals. So I always love knowing who's who and who's doing what. But yeah, on the consult call, we can talk and I can, if they're looking for support, like I said, I support people in a lot of different ways. I do these big one-to-one programs. I do the group. And then I do two other things. I do strategy sessions. So a lot of times I'll have people hire me for a strategy session, very focused. They've got some big project and they want help kind of breaking it down and putting a plan together, or they want to work through some process in their business. So I get a lot of that as well. And then the other thing I do on a kind of a quarterly basis is I do something called CEO Power Planning, where I facilitate 12-week planning. So I'll have some business owners come together. We do a 2.5-hour workshop where I will facilitate them sort of brainstorming, nailing down their goals for the next 3 months, next 12 weeks, breaking it down into a plan, and then putting a resource plan together. So it really helps them kind of bring focus to their next couple months. They walk away with a plan. They walk away knowing like kind of what resources they're going to need, and then they're ready to go implement that. So I do that as well.
Wow, so helpful.
It's it's fun too.
And it's just reminding me of like, and this was the question I was going to ask you is for people who might be thinking about transforming their career and starting their own business. It's almost sounds like that might be similar advice. What advice would you give somebody that's kind of like thinking about going off on their own? Sounds like making that plan, right?
Right. Well, yeah, you need to definitely kind of figure out what you need. And every business is a little bit different. I mean, you were talking about in the beginning, you spent a lot of time on your website and all that kind of stuff. And, I didn't go that route. And in the end, it ended up being the right thing. But the reason for it was more, I was really scared of a website. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I actually didn't have a website for the first 18 months of my business. I focused solely on networking. And I ended up putting up when we were both in Pepper Lane, I used their their profiles for a long time. But depending on some people have a business where they really do need something up, but for a lot of people, you don't need it. And so I tell them, let's just like put that aside right now, because the other thing that happens early on is so many people change what they're doing. They evolve and you need to work with a few clients so that you get really clear on the services that you offer, who the audience is. A few years ago, I worked with someone who had sold a big business. So she had a big budget to start her business and she wanted to coach. And I really tried to get her network and to start getting some clients. But she was really focused on the marketing piece, and she wanted this big website and photography, and she spent a fortune. And when she started working, she found she didn't like it. And
Mm.
and that it's not being used. I mean, it was a lot of money, and I think about her a lot. And so when I talk to new people, I'm like, just let that sit for right now. Let's get out and talk to people. But I think you need to do that in order to really have the clarity around what you're doing and who you're helping, because I think it's hard when you're first starting. And the other thing that I find with a lot of new business owners, especially people who leave the corporate world, is so they leave the corporate world and they're like, all right, I'm going to work for myself. I can do whatever I want,
Yeah.
whenever I want. And the first thing they do is throw like any semblance of structure or schedule out the window. And they, at some point, realize, okay, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. And
Mm.
so having a little bit of structure, it actually allows you a lot more freedom.
Mm.
When you decide when you're working, that's also deciding when you're not working. And it helps from it kind of bleeding over into everything. So getting a nice little handle on your time and your schedule. And like I said, having a bit of a plan, kind of breaking that down, knowing what you're going to work on. But I think when you're starting, it's about getting out and meeting people and finding those first clients, and everything doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You'll kind of feel your way through, but I think it's going to help you get there a lot faster, and it's going to feel better because it's going to be in alignment, because you're going to work with the people. You're going to know, this is what I want to do. And then you'll develop those things. But if you develop all this stuff first, and then you're trying to find something that fits, you don't always, that's hard to do it that way.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm all about personal branding. So I think even a simple website where someone can just see your name, a face, because people want to see a face, right? Is something you could even take LinkedIn, or you don't even have to have a website, have them go to LinkedIn. And I think that advice is brilliant, because I recently had it's my cousin who called me, and she has a couple of different businesses, and her business partner and her called me, and they were like, okay, we are starting this business, and they wanted to do all of the pictures, and I was like, that's like the last thing you're going to do. Because just like you said, I'm like, you have to have your services, you need to know what you're doing. I'm like, you once you have all, like, having a professional headshot or professional picture is great, but diving in and spending all of that money on like a website and images, because you're going to shift and you're going to change. And I think that you should put that in neon sign on your thing, is like, it is about networking and relationships.
Yeah.
That's the way that you're going to build your business. And a lot of people um, don't
Right.
realize that.
Right.
And photographers are known for spending too much time on their websites, by the way. It's like, we change them all the time, and we're on our websites all the time. And and the coach that I had was like, stop it. Get
Right.
off of it. Stop it. Get out there and meet people.
Right. Well, and because based on who you end up targeting for clients, your website could be very different. I mean, you might,
Yeah.
if you end up targeting other entrepreneurs, or if you end up servicing people more in the corporate space, like, how your website's going to look, and even the photography you do could be totally different based on who you're targeting. All your messaging, everything could be totally different. So,
Yeah.
and but I'm always happy to chat, always looking to chat and meet new business owners.
Okay.
So we can put the link to my website in your
Yes.
info. And
Yeah.
so
What is your website? Just
Kathleen-Lawson.com.
okay.
And
And
I'm also
yes.
on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I have a Facebook page. So you can find me in all the places.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely have all that information in the notes and on everywhere I put this. You'll have your website. But so, all right, Kathleen, that was really helpful and insightful. Thank you very much for sharing this with us.
Thank you for having me. It was good to talk with you.